Good morning, this is the Ellinesscrafts podcast. This is a podcast predominantly about knitting and crocheting and my experiences with both, and anything else that I managed to decide that I want to learn along the way. It has been a while, but I noticed I have a few new subscribers, so thank you very much to my new subscribers. Welcome. I do hope you will enjoy this podcast and come back and join in the discussions. Yeah, welcome back to those of you that have been following me since I started or before my last video, and before that. I'm kind of still half asleep, as you can probably tell, but I woke up this morning thinking to myself, I really need to get a podcast done for my knitting because I have quite a few finished objects that I'd like to share with you. And yeah, and I thought if I don't do it now, then I'm probably going to just totally get out of the swing of it. I have just returned from holiday in Mexico with my family, which was beautiful. It was beautifully hot, and I'm still kind of not quite adjusted to the time difference, so I've kind of been falling asleep on the train coming back from work and generally falling asleep at odd hours when I'm at home. So yeah, so I am a little bit off key at the moment, so do bear with me. But I do have a lot of finished objects I want to share with you, so I'm looking down at my iPad so I can remember the things that I worked on last time and let you know the progress of those. So I'm going to start by talking about the mythical socks. Now, I don't have them with me because I've already gifted them away, so this is what they look like. Mythical top-down socks. I started these, I was partway through these in the last podcast, and now I've finished these. These have been gifted to my brother, which is who they were knit for. So, let me just see. I didn't use a pattern for this. I just used my previous experience from working on other socks for this pattern. And for this one, I made, the difference with this was that I did top-down, cuff-down socks for this one. And I will probably try and insert a picture up here so you know what it is I'm talking about while I'm talking about this. Anyway, so I did a German twisted cast on for these, and I used 72 stitches, which I don't normally use for socks, but I thought I would make these slightly bigger since my brother has quite wide feet. So he hasn't actually told me how they feel, funnily enough. I'm going to have to ask him again, because when I gave them to him, he didn't try them on immediately, which is something I like to make people do when I give them a gift. If it's socks, I'd like them to try it on straight away so I know how it fits, because it's really kind of exciting when you've been working on something for so long. You don't want someone to just kind of put it to one side and say, yeah, okay, I'll try this on later. You really want them to try it on now, so you know, because you've been spending all your time focusing on this one project and you really want to know how it fits. That's how excited I get. But this time round, I think because I was focusing on my holiday and stuff, I didn't really push him to try the socks on, so I'm going to have to find out how they fit him. But I did a fishlet kiss heel for these, and essentially a 72 stitch sock. Nothing unusual about this. The yarn I used was a Reggio Design Line by Cafe Facet. I'm not sure if I pronounced it that correctly. And the colourway is called Myth. So that was the first finished object. The next thing I worked on, actually no, that's not the first, that's the first one I'm going to talk about. I'm going through these in kind of a backwards order. I did an alpine barley hat, which, let me see if I can show you that. Looks like this. Again, I no longer have this. I think I gifted that to my sister-in-law's grandson, and I'm not sure, I showed it to her, but I can't remember what I did with it after that, because she said it probably wouldn't fit him. But I think she may have taken it anyway, just to try it out. But this is the Alpine Barley Light hat. I love that pattern. The pattern is called Barley Light, basically, and it's by Tin Can Knits. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. Excuse me, I don't have it to hand, but it's easy enough to look up. I will leave information in the description box as to the patterns that I have mentioned. So my finished objects, they will all have pattern links, so you can go and click on the link and it will take you to my Ravelry page, which has all the information on there for you to check out if you're interested in the patterns and any modifications I've made, that sort of thing. So do check the description box below. So yeah, so it's the Barley Light pattern by Tin Can Knits, and I did the baby hat in a 16-inch size, and I used 2.75 and 3.5mm needles. Now my gauge is usually off, so I tend to try and go up a gauge size from the pattern. I'm usually tighter than the pattern calls for, so I usually try to go up a needle size, but I think with this one I didn't bother. And the yarn I used was Felt Fusion's merino nylon sock yarn in the colour Alpine, which is the patterned yarn. And then I used the Woolly Mama merino sock yarn in the colour Green Teal for the ribbon, and same again in the colour Burnt Orange for the ribbon. So I had the burnt orange and the green for the rib section, and then I used the Alpine for the main body of the hat, and I really loved the way it turned out. I started off with 16-inch circulars using 2.75mm needles, but the stitches got a bit too tight. Everything was too kind of stretched for the way I like to knit, and so then I switched up to DPNs, which are not my favourite way of knitting, but it took away the stretch. It wasn't so much a stretch, and I liked that. So I used DPNs mainly for this project. I didn't make any modifications to the pattern at all, apparently, according to my notes. So yeah, that is it. That is the Barley Light. I call it my Alpine Barley Light hat. That's it there. And I really love the way that turned out. And because I like the pattern so much, I've worked on it quite a few times. So I have done it again using some leftover yarn. And this one is... what colourway is that? For the rib, I used the Woolly Mama's 4-ply merino sock yarn in the colour Berry Lips. And for the main body of the yarn, I used Craft House Magic yarn in the colour You Spin Me Round. And you can see there, the pattern is kind of a, what do you call this now? Garter stitch on one panel, and then the rest is stocking stitch. It's really pretty, and I think the top of the hat is so cute as well. Can you see that? It's got that swirl going on. I really like that, and I just think it's really cute for a little baby girl, this one. And I just really love the pattern, so I'm actually working on another one now too, in a slightly bigger size. I can't speak today, but yeah, this is the, I'm calling this the Barley Light baby hat. I haven't actually given it a You Spin Me Round kind of colourway, but this is the second one that I did. Is it the second one? It's another one that I've made recently. I happened to finish up the Spindrift shawl. I showed this last time round, and I made this for my daughter. I really enjoyed working a shawl. This is my second shawl that I have worked on. And again, I've used the You Spin Me Round by Craft House Magic's yarn. And this is what it looks like. It came out so well. I blocked this. This is I don't think it's a free pattern on Ravelry. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why it's not come up on my link. I think I had to pay for this one. But this is available on Ravelry. And you can see there the eyelet detail in the bottom and the picot edging. This is the first picot edging I've ever done, so I was dead chuffed with that. And I did mess up on some of the yarn layovers along the top section here when I was knitting, but I figured no one's going to be looking at that when I'm wearing it. I don't think it's going to be that noticeable, so I just carried on. I didn't bother undoing it. Quite an easy pattern to follow. I can't speak today. Quite an easy pattern to follow. It is a crescent shaped shawl, which hopefully you can see from that. I can't really get any further back than this. And it came in really handy. I didn't think I was a shawl person, but I thought I'd make it and give it to my daughter to bring on holiday. I'll show you what it looks like on me. It's a little bit like a shawlette, I guess. It does cover my shoulders, like just like that. So it's not very long, as you can see, and so because of the fact that it's not very big or long around here, I decided to give it to my daughter, who's 10, and it fits her perfectly, covers her shoulders like that, kind of, it drops down nicely for her. And so we went on holiday and we took it with us, and when we went to the restaurants for meals, sometimes it was really, really cold because the aircon was on really strong. And that's when she brought the shawl with her, and it did the job perfectly. I was so pleased that it came in handy quite a few times, as well for the entertainment as for dinner sometimes. And it looked so pretty too. And my sister-in-law liked it as well. And I'm thinking about making one for her for Christmas. Hopefully she would like that. I think I'd need to make it slightly bigger though, make it a bit longer. So I would just continue the stocking stitch pattern until I'm ready to finish off, and then go into the eyelets, I guess. I'll have to figure it out, but I don't think it'd be that difficult to modify the pattern to make it longer. And I really enjoyed knitting this because it's just different, and look at the way it twists at the bottom. Although I've blocked it, it's got this kind of natural ringlet kind of hang to it. I think it just looks so pretty, and my daughter likes it a lot too, so I'm really pleased with that. What else? I used 3.75mm needles and 4mm needles. I think I just followed the pattern exactly for that. Because it's a shawl, I didn't think it was going to make any difference in terms of whether or not it's oversized or not. You can still wear it. Next up are booties. My other sister-in-law found a nice pattern for some baby Ugg boots. Well, they're called baby hug boots. And she's expecting a granddaughter anytime soon. And she asked me, or suggested to me, when I asked what I could knit for the baby, she suggested I knit some booties. So I found these. She gave me the pattern for me. She suggested, showed me the pattern, sent me a pattern. That's the right word. She sent me a pattern, and I made these cute little booties. So the pattern is called, let me just see, zoom in on the pattern for a second. The pattern is called Baby Hug Boots by Mariana Mel. Again, you will see links down below. And I knitted the one with the 9cm sole. And this is what they look like. So I have used Serdar #1 yarn in the colour Rosebud for these. And they are not knitting around. These are seamed booties. So you can see the seam on the bottom there. Is that seam? Yeah, I think I grafted that together on the bottom, and then it's seamed up the back, and hopefully you can't tell, but it is seamed up the back there, and then you do the ribbon. So this is what it looks like when it's done, but I've doubled over, well, you double turn over the ribbon, and they look like little baby Ugg boots, but they're called baby hug boots. And you can do two tones, you can do whatever colour combination you want, but I chose the same kind of colour combo as the pattern itself, and I like them so much I did another pair. And these, oh, the cream is the colour Wishbone. So the I think I made these slightly bigger because I found these ones were, yeah, look, these ones were very small, and I think they're supposed to be for 0 to 6 months or something like that, and I decided that I'd make them slightly bigger. So these ones I used a different size needle. I think I used the wrong size needle with these, and they came out pretty small, and then I used the correct size with these, which was 3.75mm needles, US size 5, and these are for a 3-month-old baby, and this is in the colourway Sweet Dreams. The purple is Sweet Dreams and the cream is Wishbone. Again, they're the same Serdar #1 yarn, and they're DK weight, and I really like the way they turned out, and I'm hoping that the new mum will like them too. So the only thing I modified on this was that I did lengthen the rib. So this was the first one, and the rib is quite low. I decided I wanted to have it a little bit longer, so my rib is slightly longer so that I have more to turn over. And yeah, that's how it turned out. So that's it. So those are the baby hug boots that I finished up. I started and finished those off camera, so you guys never even saw those. What else do I have? When did I finish these? I'm not sure if I finished these socks. Oh, that was long before. Okay, so the socks are old. I'm checking my Ravelry page here to refresh my memory. Ah, right. So I also then I bought a magazine. I can't remember what it's called, and I saw some patterns, crochet patterns for some Mr. Men. And I decided to have a go. Seeing as I've been doing a lot of knitting, I decided to have a go at a little bit of crochet and baby toys in particular. And I found a pattern in the magazine, or it found me, for Mr. Happy. And here he is. So I followed the pattern to the letter because I am a beginner crocheter. I'm teaching myself and I am not confident enough to do my own patterns from scratch at the moment. So I followed the pattern to the letter and I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. So this is Mr. Happy. I used a 3mm crochet hook for this. I stitched, I think the yarn came with the magazine. It's the yarn from the magazine, so I don't know what kind of yarn it is. They don't actually tell you, I don't think. So I just used the yarn from the magazine, and you can probably tell I put a little bell in there. I wanted it to kind of make a little bit of noise for baby, make it a little bit interesting. And yeah, I think I could have stuffed it a bit more because it is a little bit kind of flat looking and not round. And the hands were a little bit, my daughter says they look like jazz hands rather than equally spaced up there. She sewed on the mouth, my daughter, and I think she did a really good job of that. And I sewed on the eyes. And yeah, that is Mr. Happy. So I was pleased with that. So I thought there were things I could have done better. So I decided to have another go at the Mr. Men. And this time I decided to do Mr. Greedy. And here he is. This is my Mr. Greedy. He doesn't have as big a belly as perhaps he should have. You can see that he's got a little bit of a bump, but not as big as it should be, possibly. And the arms were a bit tricky on this because they were I-cord arms, crochet I-cord arms, if you please. I had never done crochet I-cord arms, so that was a bit of an experience trying to do that. It was really tricky. I did kind of feel, because they look like knitted I-cord arms rather than any kind of crochet pattern. As you can probably see, it just looks like a stocking stitch kind of I-cord arm. It doesn't keep with the crocheted look. So I thought it was a bit odd to use this kind of method to attach arms, to do arms. But it worked. It was very slow, and it was a new thing that I'd learnt. But I do prefer the knitted I-cord because these were really, really tricky to do on a crochet hook. Anyway, so I stitched on the face, which was easy enough to do. Still not, it's not great, but it'll do. I don't think a baby's going to really care. I didn't actually put anything inside of this. I just tried to stuff it as much as I could to try and get it to be a little bit more round than Mr. Happy. And I'm quite happy with it. I'm quite happy with it. And I sewed on the feet. It was suggested to me that I pin the limbs on before I sew them, and so I did kind of do that in my own little way. So I do feel that they're a little bit more evenly placed than Mr. Happy was. Mr. Happy has jazz hands. But yeah, I'm really pleased with that, and I think I will do some more Mr. Happies. Not Mr. Happies, Mr. Men. There are a couple more Mr. Men patterns in the magazine that I think I will have a go at, and I think I did quite well. I probably could have tightened the hole up there a bit better. I'm not sure if I needed to use a smaller needle for that to start with and then go into a bigger needle, but I did follow the pattern to the letter to do that, and to do the decreases as well and everything. Because like I said, because I'm not because I'm not an expert, or I don't have a lot of experience doing crochet projects, I'm following patterns exactly as they state. So yeah, this is what I ended up with, and I'm pretty pleased. I bought some little squeaker devices on eBay that you can stick into the toys so that they squeak, and I think I'd like to use that next time, because this is a nice toy, but I think it needs to do something to kind of keep a child's interest. And you know, the little bell is not really much of a bell inside of this, and I thought maybe the squeaker would be better, so the child can squeeze it and it actually makes more of a noise than the bell would. So yeah, we shall see. So that's that. I also have a pair of socks that I finished up for my daughter. These, I'm calling these slumber party socks. This is what they look like. I'm really pleased with these. Let me get a sock blocker and put those on so you can see it in a bit more detail. So, here we go. This is what the sock looks like. This is, the pattern is Hermione's Everyday sock pattern. And I followed it as per the pattern. I think my gauge is probably slightly off again, because I like to use 2.25mm needles, and I think she uses a different needle size for her pattern. Let me just check that. So, no, she uses 2.25. No, perfect then. I didn't check my gauge because I couldn't be bothered, to be honest. I know what my 2.25mm socks turn out like. They do fit my daughter if I use the correct amount of stitches. So for her sock, and these are hers, I used 60 stitches instead of the 64 as recommended in the Hermione's Everyday pattern, because she's got smaller feet. I think she's a UK size 4, and the yarn I use is West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply yarn in the colour cream, and Knit Picks Felice yarn in the colour Slumber Party. I didn't have a lot of this yarn left because I used it for these baby socks a short while ago, so I only had a little bit left, so I decided to do the two-tone sock and just do the whole of the foot and the heel in one colour and the cuff with the same colour, and then just do that little bit there, and I think it turned out pretty good. My daughter really likes them. The fact that they are top-down socks meant that I didn't have to worry about the cast-off edge for the cuff, and the socks don't match. They are not twins, they are sisters, as you can see. If I could have done anything differently, I think it would have been this thing here. I probably wouldn't have put the purple in down here, because it doesn't quite, you know, match in a sense. I think you'll know what I mean. It looks like just a bit of a waste of time putting that in, but I used up all the yarn. That was the intention, to use all the yarn up. I did that. Then for the heel, I'm not quite sure what I can do about this section here. Whenever I do the decreases, I always get it. There's always like a, what do you call this again? I can't remember what you call it. That gap there. Ladder? I'm not sure. I can't remember what you call it. I've had a bit of a brain freeze. I do like the heel. The heel is a partridge heel. It is so pretty, and I kind of figured out how to make it so that it's flat, and I think this was sock 1. On sock 2, you can see the join. It's slightly raised, and here you can see where I joined it, but on sock 1 it's flat. So I managed to figure out how to make it, how to pick up the stitches so that it's a nice flat join and hard to see. So yeah, I was really pleased with these, and my daughter's really pleased with them. I haven't given them to her yet because I wanted to be able to show them to you before I did that. And yeah, really pleased. German twisted cast on for these, because I like that it has a nice kind of stretch to it. Look at that. It has a nice stretch in the cuff, so I like to use the German twisted cast on. And yeah, that was it. For the toe, I decreased down to 20 stitches per needle. I mean, just check my notes if you're interested in seeing what modifications I made for my daughter's feet. But it's nothing major, it's pretty small changes. And yeah, hopefully she'll like to wear those. The West Yorkshire Spinners yarn is a little bit scratchy to start with, but I think it washes up quite nicely, so she should be alright with those. Next is the Barley hat again. So as I showed you previously, I liked to work on the Barley Light. Now the Barley Light is a fingering weight hat pattern, and the barley is the worsted weight. So I picked up the Barley hat pattern, same again, tin can knits, and this pattern is, just checking, yeah, it's for worsted weight, but for worsted I like to just use my normal DK weight yarn. This is leftover yarn I had from a cardigan I made for a baby, and so I thought, you know what, let me make a hat out of it. Any child could wear this. I'm not sure I could see an adult wearing this colour, but could be wrong, if they like green particularly. But yeah, so I made the Barley hat, 5mm needles for the main body and 4.5 for the cuff. The pattern actually calls for 4mm needles, but I tried to adjust it because I know my tension is usually off, is usually tighter than the pattern calls for. But then when I went to look for 5.5mm needles, I think I was either using them or I don't have them. I can't remember which it is. So I wound up using a 4.5mm needle. So this is kind of probably slightly smaller than it should be. This is a child's 19-inch hat. And again, it looks like that. The swirly bit on the top, and you can see the panel, the garter stitch panel. The colour of this yarn is Sage, and it's a Stylecraft Bambino double knitting yarn, and it's got this kind of a shiny effect kind of yarn. Feels a little bit like cotton, but it definitely is not. I think it's acrylic, and it's really, really nice to knit with. I really like it. Sometimes it does split a little bit, which is a bit of a pain, but if you're careful, it comes up really nicely, and that's it there. So yeah, so that is the Barley hat, not the Barley Light hat, but the Barley hat. And I made another Barley hat in the blue, in a blue yarn. Let me see, but I've gifted that, so I don't have it to show you. That's the one I made. That's the second Barley hat. Not sure if I made any modifications for this one. Let me just check. Yes, the same again. It's supposed to be 5.5mm, but I didn't have one, so I just used the 5mm needle and the 4.5mm needles for the cuff. The yarn I used for this one is King Cole Baby Comfort double knitting yarn in the colour Stone Wash. So that was the last hat. And lastly, for finished objects, I have finished up a pair of socks. So these are the V for Valentine socks. I'm just going to put these on the blockers. This is a pattern by Ellie Jones from Craft House Magic, and I made these for my size foot, and I really like how they turned out. So these are the V for Valentine socks. That's what they look like. And the yarn I'm using is Gamer Crafting Sparkle Sock Yarn. Not sure it's sparkling. I wouldn't say it's sparkle. Gamer Crafting Sparkle Sock Yarn in the colour Pixelated Unicorn. And that is it. So the pattern is a cuff down sock pattern, and I use my 2.25mm 9-inch circulars. I'm just going to check to see what the required needle size was. Yeah, she required a 2.5mm needle. I like to use 2.25 because that's what I have, and that's the kind of gauge that I'm used to. So I swapped out the needle size. I think that's about it. This is a free pattern on Ravelry, by the way. I forgot to mention that. V for Valentine socks. Free pattern on Ravelry by Ellie Jones. And I used a German twisted cast on for the cuff. There isn't a cast on suggested for the cuff in the pattern. So that's that. You can see the detail here. This is why it's called V for Valentine. It has a little V there and it has a little heart, and I think it looks so pretty. And the heel cuff, just take one away, maybe you can see it better with this one. The heel is an interesting heel flap and turn heel. It's kind of got, it's got slip stitches I'm not sure you can see it. It's got slip stitches, but it also has like the main pattern. So the slip stitches are slightly raised. It's like every 2 stitches there's a slip stitch. I'm not sure if it's showing up so well. That's probably better. But I really like the way it looks pretty. It's an interesting detail to the sock to go with the pattern here. The toe is just your ordinary decreased toe. And what I did find was that the only complaint I would have, if you could even call it a complaint, sorry, my camera's been adjusted, is that, well, it's not a complaint. I wouldn't call it a complaint. Some people would complain that if they're used to charts, this pattern is not charted. And that might bug a few people, that the little heart section is not charted. But I don't mind. I like to work with written instructions and charted instruction. Charted instructions are new to me anyway, so I'm still learning all the time on that. But a lot of people don't like charted instructions, and I did notice somebody comment that it would have been nice if the pattern was charted. Doesn't bother me either way. I really thought the pattern was very clear, very precise. I think the only thing I did find that I thought would have been helpful was that there was no stitch count, and that would have been helpful for me. But I still managed to make the socks. They still look nice. I'm still happy with them. It's a 2x2 rib. The other thing that was odd, as you can probably see, is that one sock turned out different to the other. One looks like it's got a lot more colour in it and the other has a lot less. The reason for this is I pulled for one sock from the outside of the ball of yarn and from the other sock from the inside of the ball of yarn. Now I didn't think that would have made a difference since it is all one colourway, but it's a hand dyed yarn and apparently that does sometimes make a difference, and in this case it obviously has. But it just makes me, I don't know, I'm kind of a little bit more aware of it. The socks essentially look the same anyway, but I guess I will know which one's the left one and which one's the right one if I decide to make a choice. But that doesn't really bother me too much because I don't think anyone's really going to be concentrating on my feet and my socks. But I do really like the pattern and I think I will be making another pair of these. I made these slightly shorter than I would normally wear them. Usually I like a 6-inch leg, but this is quite small. This leg is not as long as my usual kind of length socks. I'm not sure, let me just see if I can find out from the pattern how long the leg was. So, do the lace pattern. Yeah, so you do like, you do the rib, then you do about 5 rows. Yeah, you knit for 5 rows and then you start the pattern straight away, and then you knit for 5 rows and then you do your heel flap. So it's shorter than I would normally wear. I think my socks are normally probably up here. I like a bit of length, but I'm going to try them. I may enjoy wearing something that is a little bit shorter. So yeah, I like the way it turned out. I'm pretty pleased with the pattern. I'm pretty pleased with the colourways and I'm happy with these. I posted them on Instagram. And I just can't wait to get wearing these. I've got a nice little stash now of socks that I've made up since I've learned how to do socks. And I really do prefer the fit of the heel flap and gusset socks. But I was working on toe-up socks for quite a while. So I have quite a few of those as well. So anyway, I'm rambling. Let me see, where can I go with this now? Oops, I've lost my page. So those are my finished objects. I have a couple of works in progress that I am currently working on, and let me see, whips, recent whips. Okay, so the memory blanket I've worked on a little bit, but not a lot, so I'm not going to show you that because the video should be long enough already. I've worked a little bit on the double knitted scarf, but I'm in an R-ing about whether or not to rip it out and use that yarn to make a brioche hat or something, or a brioche scarf. Let me just pause and I will show you what I've done with that. Okay, so this is my double knitted scarf. I decided I wanted to learn to do double knitting just because And this is how far I've got with the scarf so far. Now it's not very long, you can see that's as long as it is, and I only have this much left. I have more cream, but I only have this much of the blue. And I'm wondering, it's taken a long time and I don't seem to be very drawn to it lately. Maybe as it gets colder I'll be drawn to it a bit more, but because of the way you knit it, it's taking a lot longer. And I guess the same could be said for brioche, but that's the progress I've made since the last time I worked on it. So I have made some progress, but I kind of was getting a bit tired of it because I have to concentrate on it. I'm not sure whether to rip it out and just do an ordinary scarf, or rip it out and do brioche, or just continue with it and see how I go, because I don't seem to be reaching for it very much lately, in favour of, maybe it's because of the weather as well, because I've been enjoying doing smaller projects. So I've enjoyed doing the hats and the socks because they're quick and easy, and I'm actually quite enjoying doing the shawls as well. But I do need to get on to some of my winter stuff now. I've done enough baby stuff. I've got one more baby item that I'm making. Actually, let me know what you think. Should I continue with the double knitting project, or should I rip it out, or should I just leave it for a while until I kind of get my shazazz back? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Anyway, I have decided to start knitting a cardigan for a baby, the same baby that the booties were for, because I haven't knitted a cardigan. And I've chosen this pattern that I've worked on before, which is the Sirdar Snaggly DK pattern. It's not on Ravelry, or is it? Maybe I got it from Ravelry, but it's printed. It's in printed form. Check it out if you haven't. It's pattern number 1782. It's a Snaggly DK. And I haven't got very far with it because I've only just started it a couple of days ago. But I've decided, I knitted it before the first time and it's knitted in pieces, and I've decided I'm going to try and knit it kind of in one piece for the body and then do the sleeves maybe in the round if I can get away with that. So I'm kind of knitting it in one piece like that. So that's the two front pieces and the back all in one. I've only got this far. I realised that I dropped a stitch and I went to pick it up and it made a huge mess, so I've had to unravel it and go back to where I was. So that's as much as I've managed to do. What else? I'm going to use this yarn. Sorry, I didn't share that, did I? The yarn I'm using is Sirdar number 1 Sweet Dreams colourway, which is the same one that I use for the booties because I'm trying to finish up the yarn. And then I'm going to use the pink one as well. So the plan is to use this for the body and then this for the sleeves, which I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do. I'm not sure I have enough of the purple to do the body, but we shall see. So this colour is Rosebud and this colour is Sweet Dreams. And then perhaps if I don't have enough left, I might actually do, I'm planning on doing the one with the hood. Or am I? Am I doing the hooded one or not? Yes, I'm doing the hood. I'm trying to do the jacket with the hood. So that would be this one up here in the corner. So if I manage to do the hood, then I'm thinking I could do either do the sleeves and the pink, sleeves in the pink and the hood in the pink, or maybe get a ball of the cream and do the cream hood. So you have the purple body, the pink arms and the cream hood. Not sure how that's going to look, but we shall see how I feel once I've finished the body and done the sleeves, because that's the hood's done separately anyway. So that is that. I've only got part way through that. I'm using size 3.5mm and 4.5mm. I think the pattern, and a DK weight yarn obviously. The pattern calls for, what size needles? 3 1/4, 3.25 and 4mm. So I'm using 3.5 and 4.5 because my tension is usually tighter, as I mentioned before. So that's what I'm using for the cardigan. Lastly, before my battery runs out, I am working on another Barley Light hat. and this one is me just trying to use up the Sea Teal yarn by Woolly Mama Yarns here, and because I had a tiny bit left, a little ball of that, and I wanted to finish that up. And then the Pixelated Unicorn by Gamer Crafting Yarn. This is going to be for my daughter. So there you can see I've got the garter pattern going on there and the stocking stitcher on the back. I haven't got very far with this yet, and I am using, what size needles? 2.75 and 3.25. I think that's what the pattern calls for these. So yeah, so I'm working on a hat as well, because I'm trying to finish up the little bit of yarn that I had left. I wasn't sure what to do with it because I used that for the socks, and then I had a small amount left, and it's not enough to make a shawl, but I suppose I could have used it in a shawl, I don't know. But I just thought it'd be nice to make a little hat, and my daughter can have the hat. And then that'll be one way to use up that yarn, because I'm trying to get through my yarn stash. I have quite a lot of yarn that I have sitting around that I bought from Etsy shops because I really love the colourways, and I just haven't used them yet because I've got loads of odds and ends. So I'm trying to finish up the little odd pieces before I break out a new ball of yarn. So that is that. Lastly, I have to share with you, I posted a post on my Ellinesscrafts Ravelry group page because I want to start the Harlow hat. I want to try some brioche. This is the Harlow hat by Andrea, she's called Drea Renee Knits. I think it's Andrea Mowry, I think that's her name. Yeah, Andrea Mowry. I saw Jamie on Cozy Up with the Stitching Sisters, or Cozy Up Knits, do this hat, and she recommended it as a good first project for someone who wants to learn brioche. So I decided I want to try this. As you guys know, I like to experiment with different patterns. I like to try different news. I like to try and challenge myself in my knitting, so I thought I'd give it a go. I did do a little attempt which I posted on Instagram with the yarn, but I don't think I'm going to use that yarn, or I'm not quite sure yet, but I thought I'd like to give this a try. But I wanted to know if you guys wanted to join me, so I want to make it into like a knit along, so I'm not doing it by myself. I'd like to have some company to do this, and if you guys are interested, do check out the Ravelry group, Ellinesscrafts Ravelry group. I've posted a thread on there to kind of share with you guys. I just want to see, you know, I want some company, basically. I want some company to do this. I don't want to be knitting this on my own. I'd love it if you guys would join in and have a go with me. So let me know over on the Ellinesscrafts Ravelry group if you're interested in doing this knit along with me. I did originally post that I was starting it from August, 1st of August, but I haven't actually properly started it yet because I haven't had anyone that wants to join me. Please join me. Let me know what your kind of knitting level of experience is, and let me know what kind of yarn you'd like to use, what you'd use for this hat. And it is a fingering weight yarn, so you need 2 fingering weight yarns, to make it kind of two-tone, I suppose. Yes, so it's the Harlow hat by Andrea Mowry. Let me know if you're interested in joining that knit along. It'll be my first ever knit along. Haven't decided how I'm going to do it because I've never done one before. I've taken part in knit alongs, but I haven't actually hosted one, so do bear with me. But please do come and join me in the Ravelry group, Ellinesscrafts, and I'd like to get started on this hat soon because I'd like to have something finished up by December, I guess. It would be nice to have something for Christmas. So yeah, that is it, I think, from me. I haven't made any recent yarn acquisitions because I've got too much of a stash already and I'm trying to finish things up. I have some jumpers that I'd like to work on because we're getting into winter, and I just want to finish up the small bits and pieces that I have and then focus on some bigger projects. So probably will be a little while before you hear from me again. If you've enjoyed this video podcast, then do let me know in the comment section below. Join in the discussion. Let me know what you think about me doing the double knitting, whether I should continue or not. Just share your thoughts. And yeah, subscribe if you haven't already. If you've enjoyed the podcast and you don't want to leave a comment, just leave a thumbs up. That's fine with me, just so I know that you've watched and you've liked. I'm doing something right. And yeah, thanks again to all of those new subscribers for joining me. I do hope you've enjoyed the podcast, and I hope you will come back for my next video. Can't say when that will be because it kind of depends on what's going on. Kids are off school at the moment, but they are going to be going back to school in the next couple of weeks, so things are going to start to get busy again. So do bear with me, but I do try and upload at least monthly. So if you click on the subscribe button and then click the little bell that notifies you every time I upload a new video, so you don't have to keep coming back and checking, it will let you know when I've done the video. So yeah, that's an easy way to kind of keep up with my channel. But thank you very much for spending some time with me today, and hopefully I will see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.